My name is Dr. Ajay Kumar, working as Associate Professor in the Department of ECE, IR Engineering College. And I am going to deal the subject antennas, waves and propagation. Today, uh, today we are going to discuss the applications of reciprocity theorem. The applications of reciprocity theorem, the concept of a beam width and also the beam efficiency. In the previous session, we have discussed the reciprocity theorem, and today we will discuss the applications of reciprocity theorem. There are different types of applications regarding the reciprocity theorem. So here, the first one is the equality of directivities, the equality of a directional pattern, the equality of effective length, the equality of antenna impedances. So these are the different types of applications we are having through the reciprocity theorem. So according to the reciprocity theorem, as we have discussed in the earlier session, according to the reciprocity theorem, whenever a current is applied at the terminals of antenna 1, these are the terminals of antenna 1 and these are the terminals of antenna 2. Whenever we apply some current at the terminals of antenna 1, if we measure the EMF at the terminals of antenna number 2, let us say as E12, and if you apply the current I2 at the terminals of antenna 2, and if we measure the EMF at the terminals of antenna 1, we can observe that the EMFs at the antenna terminals 1 and also the terminals of antenna 2 will be same provided I1 is equal to I2. That means E12 will be equal to E21 provided I1 is equal to I2. That means we need to apply the same current at the antenna terminals 1 and also at the antenna terminals 2. When we apply the same amount of current at antenna terminals 1 and at antenna terminals 2, the EMFs produced at antenna terminals 1 and 2 will be same. So this is what we have discussed regarding reciprocity theorem. Let us apply this reciprocity theorem for the equality of directivities. We will derive some expressions for the equality of directivities, and we shall derive some expressions regarding what must be the minimum distance between the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna to have the directivities, to have the same directivities. The equality of directivities. This is the first basic application of reciprocity theorem. That means the directivity is same for both the transmitting and the receiving antennas. So whether we calculate the directivity from the transmitting antenna or whether we calculate the directivity from the receiving antenna, the directivity will be same. The directivity will be same. So directivity is nothing but the maximum radiation intensity in one particular direction. We call it as a directivity. Directivity is nothing but the maximum radiation intensity in one particular direction. It is known as a directivity. So generally the directivity expression it is given by D is equal to pi max by pi AV. Pi max by pi AV. That means the directive gain is measured by the equation radiation intensity to the average radiation intensity. So the directivities are same whether calculated from the transmitting antenna's power or the receiving antenna's power. If you take antenna 1 and if you take antenna 2, if you measure the directivity from 1 to 2, let us assume this the directivity as D1, and if you replace the antennas, if you replace this transmitting section to the receiving antenna, and if you replace this receiving antenna to the transmitting antenna, and if you measure again the directivity as D2, we observe that the directivities will be same. That is, the directivities D1 will be equal to D2. So here, the concept here is directivity will be same whether we calculate the directivity in case of transmitting antenna or the receiving antenna. Whether you exchange the antennas in case of transmitting or receiving section, the directivity will be same. So let us derive some expressions for the directivities. As we know that the directivity it is given by the maximum radiation intensity by the average radiation intensity. So the maximum radiation intensity it is given as pi. The radiation intensity, the symbol is pi. As we are having maximum radiation intensity, we denote it as pi max. And the average radiation intensity, the symbol for radiation intensity is pi. As we are measuring the average value, we are denoting it by the term pi AV. So the ratio of pi max to the pi AV, maximum radiation intensity to the average radiation intensity, it is defined as the directivity. So D is equal to pi of theta comma psi max by pi AV. So we can also write this pi here. Why? Because pi is a function of theta comma psi. Pi is the radiation intensity it is a function of theta comma psi. So where theta is the polar angle and psi is the azimuth angle. The theta refers to the theta is referred as the polar angle which we measure in the xz plane, and also psi is the angle of latitude or the azimuthal angle which we measure in the xy plane. So here the radiation intensity, we are having another expression for radiation intensity. The radiation intensity is defined as the power per unit solid angle. So as we already know that the radiation intensity is defined as the power per unit solid angle. So we can write simply as the radiation intensity pi is equal to W by 4 pi. So this 4 pi represents number of steradians in a solid angle. The 4 pi represents the number of steradians in a solid angle. If we take an isotropic antenna, the isotropic antenna will be having 4 pi steradians. If we draw the radiation pattern of the isotropic antenna, the radiation pattern will be sphere. If we draw the radiation pattern, it will be in the shape of the sphere. So a complete sphere will be having a total number of 4 pi steradians. So if we calculate the average value of radiation intensity, so we will get power radiated by 4 pi steradians. So as we already know, pi AB is equal to W by 4 pi. We substitute this value pi AB in the equation D. If we substitute this equation pi AB in the value of D, that is D is equal to pi max by pi AB. If we substitute this value pi max is equal to W by 4 pi in the pi AB value, you will get D is equal to 4 pi of theta comma psi max by W. So this is the expression D simplified by substituting the value of pi AB. Also, we can also define as this is pi is a function of theta comma psi. So there are two different angles. As there are two different angles, we are taking a double integration. We are taking the double integration. That means here the double integration is taken between the limits 0 to 2 pi and also from 0 to pi. Why? Because d omega is equal to r square. D omega is equal to r square sin theta d theta and d pi. D omega is equal to r square sin theta d theta and d pi. So the limits for the theta and pi are always taken as 0 to 2 pi and 0 to pi in the spherical coordinate system. Here, if we substitute the values of d, d, that is 4 pi of theta comma psi max by pi of theta comma psi of d omega, we can modify this expression as 4 pi into pi m. So here the max is denoted simply as m. Here the max, that is maximum radiation intensity, it is simply labeled as pi m. That means 4 pi into pi m. And we can also write this function pi of theta comma psi simply as pi. The notations have been changed here simply by 4 pi into pi m by pi. And if you bring this numerator pi m to the denominator, so if you bring this numerator to the denominator, it will become pi by pi m. So we can write this pi m as pi by pi m. So as you can see in the expression here, 4 pi by pi m of d omega double integration. So if we assume this function pi by pi m as pi n by a symbol pi n, we can write this directivity as 4 pi by double integration of pi n into d omega. So d is equal to 4 pi by double integral of pi n of d omega, where pi n is denoted as pi by pi m. So where pi n it is a function of pi, where pi n is a function of pi, it is denoted as pi by pi m. Pi by pi m. That is the double integration of pi by pi m is equal to pi n. So this is the expression of directivity 4 pi by double integral of pi n. The double integration, the limits are 0 to 2 pi and 0 to pi, and where d omega is equal to the solid angle, which is expressed as r square sin theta d theta and d pi. We will extend the topic, the application of directivity to derive a formula which is known as a Friis transmission formula. So by the application of reciprocity theorem, let us derive a formula which is known as a Friis transmission formula. So based upon the power transmission, based upon the power received. So here, as from the previous earlier derivations and earlier discussions, the power transmitted by an isotropic antenna, it is given by W is equal to Wt by 4 pi r square. So here the P is given by Wt by 4 pi r square. So you can suppose if you take an isotropic antenna here, the isotropic antenna here it radiates uniformly in all directions. Here the power is radiating along the radial lines only. So here you can write simply as the power radiated is denoted as integration of P dot ds. Integration of P dot ds. So the power radiated by an isotropic antenna is uniform, and if we want to calculate the power radiated around the radial lines, we can denote it as PR is equal to integration of P dot ds. Here, integration of P dot ds, as we know that the radiation pattern of the isotropic antenna, it is a sphere. We can write this area as ds is equal to 4 pi r square. We can write this expression as ds is equal to 4 pi r square. So here, if you calculate the value of ds, if you take this as into magnitude, that means PR is equal to, if you take only the magnitude value, the magnitude of the P, you can write as P into integration of ds, and this can be simplified as P into ds is 4 pi r square, and this is the total amount of power transmitted. PR can be modified as PR is equal to WT. That means the amount of power radiated or the amount of power transmitted by an isotropic antenna. We can also denote it as by the symbol of WT. So WT is equal to P into 4 pi r square. From this expression of WT is equal to P into 4 pi r square, you can simply write this as P is equal to WT by 4 pi r square. WTP is equal to WT by 4 pi r square. So this is the expression you can see here. P is equal to WT by 4 pi r square. So this equation represents the amount of power transmitted by an isotropic antenna. The amount of power transmitted by the amount of power received per unit area at the receiving antenna. It is given by P is equal to WT by 4 pi r square, where WT represents the amount of power radiated by the isotropic antenna, and P represents the amount of power, and the power received at the receiver it depends upon the effective aperture of the antenna. So we also know that the effective aperture area, that means the amount of electric field strength incident on the antenna divided by the Poynting vector gives the effective aperture area. So as we know that AE is equal to W by P. AE is equal to W by P. That means the effective aperture area, it is given by, there is a relationship that AE is equal to W by P. So W means the amount of power received by the Poynting vector, So from this expression, we can also write it as W is equal to AE into P. W is equal to AE into P. The amount of power received at the receiver depends upon the effective aperture area of the receiving antenna and also the Poynting vector. The amount of power at the receiver, it depends upon the effective area. That means it depends upon the structure. It depends upon the area of the antenna or the dimensions of the antenna, and at the same time the Poynting vector of the antenna, the Poynting vector of the electromagnetic rays absorbed by that antenna. So here we can simply write this as WR. That means as we are worried about the power received of the receiver, we are denoting it as WR dash, which depends upon the effective aperture area of the receiver, and at the same time the Poynting vector. So WR dash is equal to AER into P. Now if we replace the transmitting antenna, the above equations have been written for the isotropic antenna. If we take a practical antenna, not an isotropic antenna, if now the transmitting antenna is now considered as a practical antenna instead of isotropic antenna, then the directivity of the practical antenna, it is given by, as we know that there is a relationship between directivity and the effective aperture. The directivity is given by 4 pi by lambda square into AE. We know that the directivity depends upon the effective area. So here we can observe here the directivity is directly proportional to the effective aperture area of the antenna. That means if we want to increase the directivity, the effective aperture of the area has to be increased. If we want to decrease the directivity, the effective aperture area of the antenna must be decreased. Here we can directly say that the D is proportional to the directivity of any antenna is directly proportional to the effective aperture area. D is proportional to AE. Whether it may be the transmitting antenna or the receiving antenna, the directivity will be proportional to this effective area. So we shall use this equation now. So as we know that D is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AE. If we want to calculate the directivity of the transmitting antenna, we are going to modify this directivity as a DT. So DT represents the directivity of the transmitting antenna, which is given by 4 pi by lambda square into AEMT. the maximum effective aperture of the transmitting antenna. So this is the relationship between the directivity and the maximum effective aperture as we have derived earlier. Now the total power received at the receiver. So here the total power received at the receiver depends upon the many parameters. One is the directivity, one is the effective aperture area, and also the amount of power transmitted. That means how much amount of power is being transmitted. So these are the three parameters which will decide the total amount of power received at the receiver. So here the amount of power received at the receiver depends on three parameters. One is the directivity of the transmitting antenna. The other one is the effective aperture area of the receiving antenna. And at the same time, what is the amount of power transmitted by the transmitting antenna. So here we are going to use all these three parameters to find out the power received at the receiver. Hence, the power received at the receiver is given by WR is equal to WR dash into dt. And we know that WR dash, this expression WR dash from this, the WR dash is given by AER into P, where P is equal to WT by 4 pi R square. If you substitute here, P, the value of P is equal to WT by 4 pi R square. If you substitute this 13th equation in the equation 14, and if you simplify this WR dash, you will get WR dash is equal to AER into WT by 4 pi R square. Now we'll substitute this WR dash value in the total amount of power received. That is WR is equal to WR dash into dt. If you substitute all these values, that is the dt, AER and the WT, you will get the expression WR is equal to AER WT by 4 pi R square into 4 pi by lambda square into AEMT. So this is the final expression we are getting. If you simplify, if you bring this WT towards the LHS, if you bring this the power transmitted WT to the LHS, we can write it as the ratios of power received to the power transmitted. The ratios of power received to the power transmitted, it depends upon the effective aperture area of the receiver, it depends upon the effective aperture area of the transmitting antenna, and also the distance r. So here the distance r represents, if this is an antenna 1 and if this is an antenna 2, the distance between the two antennas is taken as r. The distance between the two antennas 1 and 2, it is taken as r, the distance. And lambda, the lambda is nothing but the wavelength which depends upon the transmitting frequency or the operating frequency and the transmitting section. So we need to fix some operating frequency before transmitting itself. So that operating frequency, we need to fix. From that operating frequency, we can find out the value of lambda. So how to determine the value of lambda? If we know the f value, we can determine the lambda easily. So we know that C is equal to f lambda and lambda value is equal to C by f. So C is equal to 3 into 10 power 8 by the operating frequency. Suppose the operating frequency is 3 megahertz. This is the operating frequency. We have set initially operating frequency of 3 megahertz as the transmitting antenna. If this frequency is substituted here, 3 into 10 power 6, 3 they get cancelled and you will get 10 square and the lambda value is 100 meters. So like this we can calculate the lambda value of 100 meters depending upon the frequency you apply at the transmitting antenna. And the ratios of the received power to the transmitting antenna, it depends upon the effective aperture area, the transmitting antenna and the distance between the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna. This expression we call it as the Friis transmission formula. So this expression is known as the Friis transmission formula, the ratio of power received to the power transmitted to a direct path. It is given by WR by WT is equal to AER into AEMT by R square into lambda square. And we can also modify this Friis transmission formula based upon the gain of the transmitting antenna and also the gain of the receiving antenna. That means the ratio of the receiving antenna, the ratio of the power received at the antenna and to the power transmitted, it also depends upon the gain of the transmitting antenna and also the gain of the receiving antenna. So we shall modify this expression in terms of gain. We are having an expression and the above Friis transmission formula holds good only under this condition. That means R is greater than 2d square by lambda. Always this Friis transmission formula, that is WR by WT, we can calculate the amount of power received only when R is greater than 2d square by lambda, and this condition R is greater than 2d square by lambda is known as the Fraunhofer condition. It is known as the Fraunhofer condition. That means here D represents the dimension of the antenna. Here D represents, if this is the length of the antenna, this is known as a D. This is known as the dimension of the antenna. This may be the dimension of the transmitting antenna, D may be the dimension of the receiving antenna. So here D represents the dimension of the transmitting antenna. We can also write the D as the dimension of the receiving antenna. The receiving antenna. Under this condition only, this Friis transmission formula holds good, because the radiation pattern will be uniform and maximum only in the far field only. As the radiation pattern is very clear and uniform and at the same time very maximum in the far field, this condition holds good. That means when R is greater than 2d square by lambda, the radiation pattern will be clear. The radiation pattern will be clear like this. There will be a uniform or maximum radiation pattern in one particular direction, or it may be a bidirectional radiation pattern. So if we take R is less than or 2d square by lambda, suppose if R is less than 2d square by lambda, what happens? Under this condition, the radiation pattern is not clear and non-uniform radiation pattern is observed under this condition. And at the same time, as R is less than 2d square lambda, the distance between the two antennas is very less. The distance between the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna is very less. It implies there will be more inductance between the two antennas. That means a clear radiation pattern is not observed under this condition. That is, R is less than or equal to 2d square by lambda. So here, let us modify the expression of a Friis transmission formula based upon the gains of the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna. So as we know that there is a relationship D is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AE. We know that D is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AE. We can also write this as a D is equal to, as we know that G naught is equal to KD. We know that G naught is equal to KD. That means that the gain and the directivity will be equal. K is the efficiency factor. If we assume that there are no losses at the transmitting section or the receiving section, if there are no losses at the transmitting section or the receiving section, the efficiency factor K will be equal to 1. If there are no losses, the efficiency factor is equal to 1. Under this condition, G naught will be equal to T. Under this condition, the gain of the transmitting antenna will be equal to the directivity of that antenna. So when D is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AE, we can write this expression as D is equal to G is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AE. We can write this. So for the transmitting side, as we are discussing about the transmitting section, we can use the suffix dt as for the transmitting, gt for the transmitting, gain of the transmitting antenna, dt as the directivity of the transmitting antenna, and here AEMT, the maximum effective aperture of the transmitting antenna. Similarly, we can also modify this as dr. So you can observe here, dr is equal to gr is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AER. So from this basic expression, just we have added the suffix t and r. We have added the suffix and t and r for the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna. So from the expression G naught is equal to KD, we have got the equations dt is equal to gt is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AET, and also the directivity of the receiving antenna is equal to GR is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AER. So from these above expressions, if you simplify this AET, what you will get? We will get GT into lambda square by 4 pi. If we simplify here, if we simplify these expressions here, if we simplify this, AET is equal to GT into lambda square by 4 pi. Similarly, AER is equal to, we will get GR into lambda square by 4 pi. So we are going to define these two equations in terms of effective maximum of transmitting antenna and the effective maximum area of the receiving antenna. So we shall substitute this AET and AER. We are getting AET and AER in the equation WR by WT. So we have derived a Friis transmission formula WR by WT. So in that formula, we need to substitute the AET and AER value. So what is WR by WT? So here you can see here in the previous slide, WR by WT is equal to AER AEMT by R square lambda square. So in this expression, we have modified this expression in terms of gain. We have modified the expression in terms of gain. So we need to substitute the value of GT and we need to substitute the value of AET and AER in terms of gain in these expressions. If you substitute in these expressions, you will get finally WR by WT is equal to lambda by 4 pi R whole square into GT into GR. That is WR by WT is equal to GT into GR by 4 pi R by lambda whole square. You can also write this, modify this expression as GT into GR by 4 pi R by lambda whole square. This 4 pi R by lambda whole square depends upon it's also known as the free space loss factor. Free space loss factor, that is the formula for the free space loss factor is lambda by 4 pi R whole square. It specifies how much amount of loss, how much amount of energy is distributed in the free space, how much amount of energy is being wasted in the free space, how much amount of energy is spread unevenly in the free space. It is given by lambda by 4 pi R whole square. We can also modify this expression as WR by WT is equal to GT GR by 4 pi R by lambda whole square. So, we are having a Friis transmission formula. There are two formulas for determining the amount of power received. To determine the amount of power received at the receiving antenna, we are having two formulas. We have derived two expressions from the Friis transmission formula. One in terms of maximum effective aperture and the other one in terms of the gain. So these two expressions are valid under the condition R greater than or equal to 2d square by lambda. So this is the expression, one is a very important expression to find out the total amount of power received. So here from this also we can conclude that the amount of power received, in order to evaluate the total amount of power received the receiving antenna, it depends upon the gain of the transmitting antenna, it depends upon the gain of the receiving antenna, it depends upon the operating frequency, and also it depends upon the distance between the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna. Now the second important application of reciprocity theorem is equality of directional pattern. Equality of the directional pattern. So here you can observe here, there is a transmitting antenna. We can see in the display that there is a transmitting antenna. It is located exactly at the center of the observation circle. Let us think this as an observation circle. A transmitting antenna 1 is placed at the center of an observation circle, and antenna number 2 can be treated as a receiving antenna. It is placed on the observation circle exactly perpendicular to the antenna number 1. As you can see in the display, transmitting antenna is placed at the center of the observation circle, and at the same time, the antenna number 2 is placed on the observation circle exactly perpendicular to the direction of the antenna number 1. So why we place the antenna 2 perpendicular means when we place perpendicular, we will get the maximum amount of radiation. When we place antenna number 2 perpendicular to antenna 1, maximum amount of radiation can be observed or maximum amount of radiation can be absorbed by the antenna number 2. Now we will conduct an experiment based upon the directional pattern. Here, whenever we give some input signal, to the transmitting antenna, let us apply some current to the antenna number 1. Now you record the amount of electric field strength received at the antenna number 2. Let us assume this as E. Let us assume this as electric field strength E, or we can also name it as E12. So now you slowly move the antenna number 2 to this point. And also when you move the receiving antenna to this point, also at that point you record the reading of how much amount of electric field strength is observed at this point. You name it as E2. This is E1 and this is E2. And on the observation circle, again you move the receiving antenna in the other directions. At different points over the observation circle, you record all the readings. You record all the readings of electric field strength received at the receiving antenna from the transmitting antenna. Let them be as E1, E2, E3, E4 and E5 and so on. So after recording all the readings of electric field strength observed at the receiving antenna, you find out the value of EMF, that is the total amount of EMF induced at the receiving antenna. The EMF is calculated as E12, E21, right? So here, if you calculate the amount of voltage induced, we can call it as the mutual impedance. So if you calculate the mutual impedance or the impedance from the receiving antenna, you calculate the value of E1 by I1, the amount of impedance induced at the receiving antenna. At the same time, E2 by I1 at different points, and also E3 by I1. So you note on all these readings, that is the amount of voltage that is induced to the receiving antenna. Now, After conducting the case 1, go for the case 2. So in the case 2, what we need to do is, you replace the receiving antenna to the transmitting antenna. Suppose if you replace this antenna 2 to the antenna number 1, and you replace this antenna 1 to the receiving antenna, now this receiving antenna, this is antenna 2 becomes the transmitting antenna, and this antenna 1 becomes the receiving antenna. And again you repeat the experiment in a similar way, that you move the, you can see the case 2 here, case 2 here, this is the observation circle, and you place the antenna 1 here, you exchange the antenna 2 here. Now this becomes the transmitting antenna and this becomes the receiving antenna. You move the receiving antenna on the observation circle slowly and you record all the amount of electric field strength induced at the antenna number 1, and also you calculate the amount of voltage induced similarly, that means the amount of impedance it is given by. So here we can also write it as P is equal to Vi, and V is equal to I square R, or we can also call it as P is equal to V is equal to I square R, and R is equal to P by I square. So P means the Poynting vector, it is known as E by I square. So here what you need to do is, at the different points on the receiving antenna, on the observation circle, you calculate the amount of voltage induced. So you need to calculate the voltage induced is given by, suppose this is taken as I2, this is E1, this is E2, this is E3. You calculate as E1 by I2. In the first case, you calculate here as E2 by I1. So this is the case 1 and this is the case 2. So even when we interchange the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna, so you will observe that E1 by I2 in the second case will be equal to the E2 by I1. That means the directional pattern of the antennas will be same, whether the antenna is operating in the transmitting mode or the receiving mode. So whether the antenna is operating in the transmitting mode or receiving mode, the directional pattern will be same. So here, we need to conduct an experiment to record all the readings of the electric field strength received by the receiving antenna, whether you use the antenna in the transmitting side or the receiving side. Right? So in the first case, you observe that you calculate the value of E2 by I1. So in the second case, you calculate the value of E1 by I2. You observe that these two readings will be same. That means the directional pattern will be same. That means the radiation pattern, even if you exchange the antennas transmitting to the receiving or receiving to the transmitting, the radiation patterns will be same. As the radiation patterns are same, the directional pattern will be same. So this is the equality of a directional pattern. Similarly, we can also apply the reciprocity theorem, the equality of effective lens pattern. So the value of maximum effective aperture, it is same for both the transmitting and the receiving antennas. As we have discussed earlier, so whether you use the antennas in the transmitting mode or the receiving mode, the effective lens, the value of maximum effective aperture will be same for both the transmitting and the receiving antennas. Right? So as the effective aperture area is the same for the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna, so the directivity will be same. So the directivity is given by 4 pi by lambda square into AEM. That means the maximum effective aperture of the antenna is given by D is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AEM. So here the same concept is being applied as how we applied for directional pattern. So whether we use the antenna in the transmitting mode or the receiving mode, the effective length of the transmitting antenna and the effective length of the receiving antenna will be maintained same. And this effective length depends upon the value of the wavelength. And the last one is equality of antenna impedances. That means the output impedance of a transmitting antenna and the input impedance of the receiving antenna are equal in an effective communication. So these properties will not change though the same antenna is operated as a transmitter or the receiver. Hence the property of a receiver is reciprocity is followed. That means if you take this a transmitting antenna, here there is a receiving antenna, this is the transmitting mode and this is the receiving mode. The output impedance of the transmitting antenna will be equivalent to the input impedance of the receiving antenna. Now, if you interchange these two, then if you interchange these two, this becomes the transmitting antenna and this becomes the receiving antenna. So the Z naught of the transmitting antenna will be equivalent to the Z in of the receiving antenna. That means the impedances also will not change, though the antenna is operated as a transmitter or a receiver. So these are the applications of the reciprocity theorem. That means equality in antenna impedances, equality in directional patterns, equality in effective length, and equality of directivities. So these are the 4 different applications of reciprocity theorem. We shall go for the next one. Front to back ratio. This is also one of the parameters. So whenever we design an antenna, we need to check the performance of the antenna. So this is one important parameter to check the performance of the antenna. So this front to back ratio, you can also name it as FBR. So whenever we buy an antenna, there will be some specifications written on the antenna. That is the value of FBR. It is given on the antenna itself. So FBR is defined as the power radiated in the desired direction by power radiated in the opposite direction. The power radiated in the desired direction by the power radiated in the opposite direction. So this is known as the FBR, that is the front to back ratio. Suppose if you take case 1, the power radiated in the desired direction is 5 watts and the power radiated in the opposite direction is 1 watt. Now the FBR value is 5. If you take another case 2, if the power radiated in the desired direction is 5 watts and the power radiated in the opposite direction is 2 watts, now the FBR value becomes 2.5. That means you can observe here in the 2 cases. In the first case, the FBR value is very high. In the second case, the FBR value is 2.5. That means always the FBR value must be high. If the FBR value is high, then it means that the design of the antenna is good. It means the antenna efficiency is good. If the FBR value is very less, the FBR value is 2.5, means there may be some insulation problem, there may be some cable connectivity problem, and there may be some problem in the design. Right? So all these things are responsible for achieving the value of a low FBR value. So always, whenever we design antenna, we need to calculate the FBR value. If this FBR value is high, we can blindly say that the antenna efficiency is good. If this FBR value is very less, then it means that the antenna performance is very less. So as you can see in the display here, the power radiated in the desired direction is very high. The power radiated, this is the main lobe. So this is the main lobe, represents the power radiated in the desired direction. This is unidirectional. As the radiation pattern, you can observe here, it is unidirectional. The major lobe, it is a major lobe where there is a maximum amount of radiation is being observed here. And here there is a little amount of opposite direction radiation. This is opposite. This is the desired direction. The desired direction is, suppose this is 5 watts. In the opposite direction, it is 1 watt. Suppose the ratios we calculate. If the ratios we calculate, we will get the value of FBR. 5 watts by 1 watt is equal to 5 watts. So this is how to calculate the FBR ratio. So always, whenever design antenna, see that the value of FBR must be high. If the FBR value is very less, we can directly say the design of the antenna is not good, and there might be some connectivity problem or the insulation problem between the transmission line and the antenna. So this is the basic definition of FBR: power radiated in the desired direction by the power radiated in the opposite direction. So this ratio tells us the extent of backward radiation and is normally expressed in dB. That means if this FBR value is very less, it implies that noise is more. That means side lobes are more, side lobes of the radiation pattern are more, and the back lobes are also more. These side lobes, back lobes, and minor lobes, all these represent the noise. So seeing the value of FBR, we need to reduce noise to a maximum extent. That means we need to modify the design of the antenna to increase the value of FBR. So this parameter is important in circumstances where interference or coverage in the reverse direction needs to be minimized. So sometimes it's mandatory that the opposite direction is more amount of noise is there. That amount of noise has to be reduced. in some particular applications. So in that cases, this FBR value plays a significant role. We'll see the next topic, that is antenna beam width. So this antenna beam width is given by we can calculate the beam width as half power beam width and the first null beam width. So beam width is nothing but the aperture angle from where most of the power is radiated. If you always, whenever we want to calculate the beam width, we need to consider only the major lobe only. There are 4 types of lobes. One is major lobe, minor lobe, side lobes, and back lobes. So out of all these 4 lobes, the maximum radiation will be only in the major lobe only. So if you take this major lobe like this is known as a major lobe. You at a half power points, exactly you locate 2 points exactly at a half of the major lobe. You join these 2 points. The angle so formed here represented as theta. We call it as HPBW. That means half power beam width. So always whenever you want to calculate the half power beam width, you take only the major lobe of the entire radiation pattern. You locate exactly 2 points exactly at a half power of the major lobe. Half power points of the major lobe. You take 2 points. These 2 points you join from this center. The angle so formed, we call it as HPBW. That means half power beam width. So another parameter we are going to calculate the antenna is first null beam width. So these are known as first nulls. These are known as the lobes which are the first lobes which are adjacent to the major lobe. We call it as first nulls. The first lobes which are adjacent to the major lobe, we call it as the first nulls. We draw 2 lines to these first lobes, and the angle so formed, we represent as theta 1. This is known as the first null beam width. So I will show you again here. If you take the major lobe here, these are known as first lobes or the first nulls. You draw 2 lines exactly to these first lobes, and this angle so formed is known as the FNBW. We can also name it as BWFN. We can also write it as BWFN. That means beam width between the first nulls. So these are another 2 parameters which we need to find out whenever we design an antenna. So whenever we design an antenna, we need to calculate the gain, directivity, effective length, effective area, and at the same time we need to calculate the half power beam width and also beam width between the first nulls. Right. So all these are the parameters which will decide the performance of the antenna. So we need to check the performance of the antenna before we use that antenna for a particular application. So here, according to the definition of half power beam width, the angular separation in which the magnitude of the radiation pattern decreases by 50% from the peak of the main beam. So as you can see here, 50%. This is exactly 50%. That means from the peak of the major lobe, we are taking only half power. That means from the peak of the main beam, exactly we are locating half power. And this angular separation, we call it as the half power beam width. And the angular span or the angular separation between the first pattern nulls adjacent to the main lobe, we call it as a first null beam width or beam width between the first nulls. We can also call it as beam width between the first nulls. So antenna beam width, we can derive an expression D is equal to 4 pi by omega A or 4 pi by B. We can also call it as where B represents the beam area. So here if we draw the major lobe, here we join 2 lines here exactly at the half power points, and this entire portion we call it as beam area. This entire portion we call it as the beam area. That means the area where the maximum amount of radiation intensity is there, the area where the amount of power radiation is more, we call it as the beam area. So this portion where the amount of power radiation is maximum, where the amount of radiation intensity is maximum, we call this area as beam area. So we can represent this beam area as B. We can also write as D is equal to 4 pi by omega A or 4 pi by B. So here omega A represents a beam solid angle. Omega A represents a beam solid angle, or we can also call it as beam area BA. So B is written as half power beam width in the horizontal plane into a half power beam width in the E plane. So whenever we want to calculate the half power beam width in the E plane or H plane, see that the major lobe must exactly coincide with any of the axes. If we take this as axis like this, X, Y, and Z, if we want to calculate the E plane and H plane, we need to see that this major lobe must coincide with any of these axes. Now you can see in the display that the major lobe is coinciding with Z plane. So we can also draw the relation pattern and align it with we can also coincide it with the X plane also. In the X plane, if you draw some lines like this, so these lines represents one is E plane and this is the H plane. Always E and H are perpendicular to each other. If we see this, if we take this as E plane and this is known as the H plane, right? So we need to calculate the E plane and H plane only when the major lobe coincides with any of the axis in the three-dimensional plane. So we need to calculate the half power beam width in the E plane. At the same time, we need to calculate the half power beam width in the H plane. If we calculate, we will get B is equal to theta E into theta H. From this expression 4 pi by omega A, we can write omega A is equal to theta E into theta H. 4 pi by theta E into theta H. So we can represent in this is in radians. We can also calculate in terms of square degrees. So you convert into square degrees. After converting in square degrees, you will get 57.3 degrees. So 4 pi into 57.3 whole square by theta E degrees into theta H degrees. Right? So you can find out 1 degree is equal to some 0.1 something radians. Right? So you convert 1 radian is equal to how many degrees? You'll get the value of as 57.3. You'll get the value as 57.3. So 4 pi into 57.3 whole square by theta E degrees into theta H degrees. If you multiply all these three, 4 pi into 57.3 whole square by theta E degrees into theta H degrees, you will get the value as 41,257 by theta E into theta H. So the directivity, it depends upon the omega A, that is a beam solid angle. We can also represent it in terms of a beam area. So directivity is equal to 41,257 by theta E degrees into theta H degrees. So theta E represents the half power beam width in the E direction and theta H represents the half power beam width in the H direction or in the H plane. So this is one of the standard formula. You need to remember these two formulas to find out the directivity. So we are having a directivity. There are many formulas for directivity. So one is in terms of radiation intensity. So the radiation intensity means it is pi max by pi AV. That is the maximum radiation intensity. The ratio of maximum radiation intensity to the maximum radiated power in one particular direction. We call it as a directivity. So we can also define directivity as a ratio of solid angle to the beam area. The ratio of solid angle to the beam solid angle. We can also define the expression 41,257 by theta E degrees into theta H degrees. So this is about the antenna beam width. So today we have discussed about the applications of reciprocity theorem, antenna beam width, and also the another parameter front to back ratio. We'll see the other parameters in the next session. We'll see the other parameters in the next session. Okay. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.